ruled out direct negotiations with the United States on its nuclear program. Donald Trump has said he is very angry and pissed off with Russian President Vladimir Putin after weeks of attempting to negotiate a ceasefire in Ukraine. In Canada, the Liberals continue to lead the Conservatives among voters after the first week of the federal election campaign. This is as per a new Ipsos poll. And in the neighborhood, Pakistan faces a severe water shortage crisis, significantly affecting agriculture, also livelihoods across the country. Well, our big focus at the moment, Thai police have detained 4 Chinese nationals for unlawfully entering the site of the under-construction building that collapsed after a powerful earthquake in Chatuchak district in Bangkok. So as per our sources, 4 Chinese men linked to a contractor were caught taking about 32 files from the Chatuchak disaster site. They were spotted by the media. They were later stopped by the police. This is what we know so far, thanks to my colleague Vishal Vivek. Meanwhile, I must inform you, the World Health Organization has declared the Myanmar earthquake a top-level emergency as it has killed over 1,600 people, urgently requesting $8 million to save lives and also avoid disease epidemics in the coming 30 days. To get in the latest from Bangkok, let's go across to my colleague Vishal Vivek, who joins us live from there at the moment. Vishal, tell us more about this China connection that's emerged in the Bangkok skyscraper collapse, and do we know whether a legal case is being pursued?
Yes, so yesterday we learned that a Chinese company has been involved in the construction of this building that is already collapsed, trapping under its rubble more than 70 people. It's a joint venture between a Thai company, an Italian company, and a state-owned Chinese company. That is the angle that we've explored, and the legal case is being pursued. The Deputy PM of Thailand spoke to me day before yesterday and told me that they have set up a 7-day committee, a 7-member committee that will have 7 days to come with a result into the probe, and they will be investigating it thoroughly, is what they told me. And also the fact that the Chinese ambassador met with the Deputy PM of Thailand yesterday, and as far as this tragedy unfolding right behind me is concerned, right now, at least 70 to 80 people are buried under the 4-story high rubble, and there have been some signs of life, some vital signs have been detected in the last 2 days, but so far no one has been pulled out alive. That paints a very grim picture. Last night, one senior rescue personnel told me that a person was spotted at the top of the rubble. I would request my camera person Rohit Vishwakarma to point at the top of the rubble, where some person was spotted 3 meters below the top of the rubble. They had used the latest technology through which they could detect that person, but he or she has not so far been pulled out. The authorities had been using all kinds of equipment to dig through from the top, and they have been using these cranes to pick at that rubble every now and then. They have at least 15 to 16 cranes parked here at any point in time, and you can see that this whole area is surrounded by foreign media, volunteers. Volunteers particularly have been really helpful in this situation because this whole area is cordoned off. It's a market area, but there are no shops open. So people who come in here, they are being fed, they are being given water, they are being given towels, they are being given medical facilities, all of that for free. So volunteers have stepped up. They have done this on their own, so that is pretty commendable. You can see police vehicles right now coming in. There's a heavy deployment of police here. So that raises the question as to how did the 4 Chinese nationals manage to get inside this place when you have seen yourself that there's such a high security area.
As always, Vishal, thanks so much for joining us with the latest details and developments from Bangkok. Well, in other crucial news, Donald Trump has explicitly threatened Iran with war unless Tehran comes to the table and hammers out a new agreement on nuclear weapons with Washington. Trump, in fact, told NBC News that US and Iran's officials are talking but didn't elaborate the details of it. But the development of Trump's remarks comes as Iran rejected the US's proposal for a direct negotiation just last week. Trump, in fact, told NBC News, and I quote, that if they don't make a deal, there will be bombing. It will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before. But tensions between Washington and Tehran have been high for more than a year. As the US and its ally Israel have clashed with several groups, the two countries accuse the Iranian government of funding and supporting through intelligence sharing and other cooperation as well. Conflict, in fact, against one of those groups, the Houthis, resumed last weekend with a US strike in Yemen, while Houthi forces target US military vessels and trade ships in the Red Sea. Just listen in to what Iran's president had to say.
جوابی هم که مقام معظم رهبری در رابطه با نامه‌ای که ترامپ فرستاده برادرم آقای دکتر عراقچی اونو به کشور عمان رسوندن و به دست رابط آمریکایی رسیده و در اونجا هم مذاکره به طور مستقیم رد شده، اما مذاکره به طور غیر مستقیم همیشه ایران در اون رابطه بوده و الان هم مقام معظم رهبری تاکید فرمودن که مذاکره غیر مستقیم همچنان میتونه ادامه داشته باشه. ما از مذاکره نه تنها پرهیز نمی کنیم بلکه اون بدعهدی هاست که برای ما مشکل ایجاد کرده تا کنون باید ثابت بکنن که میتونن اعتماد رو در رابطه با تصمیمات ایجاد بکنن که امیدوارم اینم شکل بگیره.
And for further clarity, we have with us live from Washington, D.C., Raymond Vickery joining us on NDTV. As always, sir, thank you so much for making time for us. President Trump has warned of bombing if Iran doesn't engage in direct nuclear talks. How credible would you say this threat is? And many warn with Trump, you actually never really know.
Well, thanks very much for having me, and good morning. I think it's a serious situation. Everybody knows you can't take President Trump at his word. To some extent, this is reminiscent of what happened with Kim Jong-un in North Korea during his first administration. You may recall threats about, I have a bigger button than he does, talking about a nuclear war. Nevertheless, there is a great reason to be concerned here. There are signs that the snapback provisions, if you will, of the agreement reached in 2015 would impose more sanctions internationally on Iran. And in February, President Trump signed a memorandum trying to drive oil exports to zero. So it's always difficult to gauge just simply by looking at the words of President Trump. I think it is important that he has mentioned in the same breath with bombing the secondary tariffs, if you will. Greater tariff seems to be the sledgehammer approach diplomatically that President Trump thinks will solve everything. So it's a difficult situation, but peace must be waged just like war, and one would hope that great democracies like India, others very much interested, will serve to moderate this situation. The idea that you're going to have diplomatic relations conducted like you do a real estate deal, and that is you send a letter to the other side saying you're going to do something, is not the right way to go about it.
As always, sir, thank you so much for joining us with your views. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates.
Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, kicking off the second week of Canada's federal election campaign, new polling shows the Liberals are firmly in the lead. However, the two parties seem to be tied on who would be the best party to handle what's seen as the top two issues: affordability and the cost of living. My colleague Maha Siddiqui has been tracking all the political developments for us. She joins us live from Vancouver at the moment. Maha, take us through all that we need to know and also the main areas that could be decisive in this election.
So the Liberal Party is starting the second week of campaign on a strong note, as we are observing that the opinion polls are giving them a 3% lead over the Conservatives. So they are gaining momentum, and the momentum is largely based on the fact that the NDP and Bloc Quebeca seem to be losing some ground. So many believe that this is benefiting the Liberals. And at the current moment, so let's try and understand what these opinion polls really tell us. They tell us that if the polls were to be held today, then the Liberal Party will be able to come back to par with a majority. And if the elections were held today, then this is how the numbers would stack up. About 194 for the Liberal Party. So that is pretty much a 20-seat lead ahead of the 172 magic figure, which is the majority figure in the House of Commons. So therefore, we are seeing the Liberal Party at the moment comfortably placed, at least as far as the opinion polls are concerned. But this is only the second week of the campaign. The elections are going to be held on the 28th of April. There is still some time for all the parties to pitch whatever promises they are going to make to the public and win their support for the election on the 28th of April. And all the parties at the moment are looking, Parmeshwar, at the issue of the trade war with the US. And therefore, we have also seen some promises coming in the form of tax breaks that the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Poilievre, is promising for those who reinvest back in the country. So this is one promise, again, that is closely tied to the trade war with the US. All the parties, especially the Liberal Party, as we have seen, gaining ground because of Mark Carney himself, who's been a former governor of the Bank of Canada and the Bank of England. And therefore, a lot of people believe that this is the moment that Mark Carney will be able to handle best. And that is why we have seen this remarkable comeback of the Liberal Party.
As always, Maha, thank you so much for taking us through the lowdown. We will, of course, be keeping in regular touch with you for the latest updates from Canada. And as always, news and updates continue in a moment right after this very short break. Do stay tuned.
One of the worst earthquakes hit Thailand recently, and the tragedy is still unfolding. 72-hour window is quite crucial, and it is fast approaching. And as soon as that window is closed, it will be really difficult to find somebody alive from that rubble. I count at least 8 to 10 cranes. These are huge cranes that are being used to shift through the rubble. Last morning, they had spotted one person who was reportedly alive.
Majority of the people who is in these ruins could be around 70 to 80 people.
So authorities are saying that they have the mechanism, they have the techniques in place to rescue the people. It all boils down to hope and courage.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
One of your primary concerns and one of your primary responsibilities is to deal with the threat of terror. And at the moment, we see a great deal of that out of Yemen. We see attacks on shipping taking place, and we see the United States being very much on the offensive. Is that a prelude for something larger, perhaps even a ground offensive going forward?
When you look at President Trump's leadership going back through his first term as president, he has been and remains very committed to combating and defeating the threat of Islamist terrorism that not only affects the United States, the American people, our own safety and security, but it is affecting so many people in different parts of the world. We can see different terrorist groups, the Houthis in Yemen being one of them, that President Trump has redesignated after President Biden took them off of the terrorist list, redesignated them appropriately as a terrorist organization, and taking action where the previous administration failed to.
Right.
The Houthis have been disrupting maritime trade and passage for a very long time, and no serious effort has been taken to stop that disruption. Our country and other countries should not be in a position to have to make a decision to reroute commerce going through that area simply because of the Houthi threat that exists. So President Trump has taken decisive action for our own safety, security, and prosperity. And I know we'll look to other affected countries, as there are many who are impacted by this, to similarly take action.
Bharat welcomes the world to a new era of creativity. Waves, World Audiovisual and Entertainment Summit, as Mumbai hosts the global stage for creativity and innovation. Connecting creators through Creatosphere, where emerging voices rise. Wave Accelerator, where ideas meet global investors. Waves Bazaar, a global marketplace for content. Connecting countries through global media dialogue and industry roundtable. Bharat Pavilion, capturing India's rich history of storytelling.
वेव्स के रूप में भारत एक ऐसा प्लेटफॉर्म बनाने जा रहा है जिसमें दुनिया के एंटरटेनमेंट लैंडस्केप पर उसको बदलने की क्षमता होगी.
From culturals to cinema, gaming to animation, fueling the next wave of entertainment. Connecting creators, connecting countries. Waves 2025.
Notice by all of these auditors.
SEBI is seeking more information on the trades and the all the transaction which has happened from the exchanges, both NSE and BSE.
The Reserve Bank of India's supervisory officers, they are seeking compliance reports on their foreign currency borrowing.
Well, Israeli strikes on a tent and a home housing displaced people in southern Gaza killed 10 people, including children, as Palestinians observed the first day of Eid al-Fitr. This is what rescuers have confirmed. In fact, videos of the aftermath of the strike show some of the child victims wearing new Eid clothing, because in Middle Eastern tradition, children actually wear new clothes to celebrate the three-day holiday. For an expert view on what's happening at the moment, James Bowden joins us live currently. James, how does this attack in the context of a religious holiday shape international perceptions of Israel's military actions as we speak?
I really don't think it's going to change anything significantly or move any needles. Israel, since about March 15th, has really just been bombing the entire Gaza Strip, not in a strategic or tactical way, but just bombing any targets of opportunity that it has. And so I think this is a part of that broader campaign of just bombing and continually bombing all the time. So while unfortunate and very tragic, I don't know that there's any incredible significance to take out of this. And I don't think that the international community is likely to point to this as something as incredible. And again, it's tragic and it's very sad, but we have gone through such a long period of time of tragic and significant strikes that this just becomes one more tragedy amongst so many. And I'd like to very quickly, if I may, get a little off topic here. And I want to very specifically disagree with your prior guest. Donald Trump is actually taking the Iranian situation very seriously. And we know through leaks and other information that they have staged B-2 bombers at Diego Garcia. And my organization, Near East Observers, which is dedicated to military matters in the Middle East, has taken that there is a 60% chance that these will be focused on Yemen, but there is a 40% chance that Donald Trump will be focusing the bomber strikes against Iran, and that there was this very intentional leak to let them know and signal that there is a serious mindset that if they don't come to the negotiating table, that there will be some strategic consequences.
Well, worrying times ahead. James, thanks so much for joining us with your views. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. The Trump plan, by the way, which proposed the voluntary relocation of Palestinians, is once again being referenced by Netanyahu. But many actually question whether it can ever realistically be implemented, while others warn of serious implications for Palestinians' rights to self-determination. Meanwhile, I must tell you that the Trump administration has paused certain green card processing for some immigrants. In fact, even approved refugees are now facing delays as far as applications for permanent residency are concerned. Is this a worry for Indians? Well, yes. Indian asylum seekers in the US, they surged 466% from 2018 to 2023. And we are now learning that certain green card applications have been paused. So yes, this is likely to impact those who are planning to apply to the United States for further employment and for calling the US their second home as well. Well, as always, news and updates continue right here on NDTV 24/7. Thanks for watching.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital, Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
The India-US strategic partnership is one that's been developing now over the last several decades, and there's a great sense of optimism over here in India that it is headed in a particular direction. To tell us a little bit about that, and there are so many important global events taking place, Tulsi Gabbard with us, the Director of National Intelligence. It's wonderful to have you here in India, and thank you so much for speaking to us. In terms of the strategic relationship and the intelligence arrangements between India and the United States, to what extent is it premised on perhaps an expansionist or an expanding China and the Asia-Pacific region?
You know, the ties between our two countries, the United States and India, go very, very far back. And so what we're continuing to see is a strengthening of that partnership and recognizing that the mutual interests of both of our countries are centered around peace, prosperity, freedom, and security. So now as we see a new administration coming in with President Trump's leadership in the United States, of course, Prime Minister Modi's long-standing leadership here in India, we have two leaders of our two great countries who are very good friends and who are very focused on how we can strengthen those shared objectives and those shared interests.
So in a sense, it's taking forward what we already have in terms of the strategic partnership, and that's one of your primary goals, right?
It is.
And how were your meetings to that end?
It is. I've been having great meetings, and of course this began with Prime Minister Modi's visit to President Trump in Washington, D.C., very shortly after he was inaugurated back into office for a second term, where they really set the tone and set the vision for where a stronger U.S.-India partnership and friendship can lead to. And so my visit here is really predicated on the work that has already been done. And I've been having great conversations with my counterparts here in the Indian government. I just met with the Minister of Defense a few minutes ago, and looking forward to visiting with Prime Minister Modi here later today.
And you met the Prime Minister in Washington as well some time back. How did that go? I mean,
it was,
we saw the pictures.
It was great. I had the opportunity to meet him several years ago. It was good to see him again. And it was actually very perfectly timed, where it was maybe 1 or 2 hours after I was officially sworn into this position as Director of National Intelligence that he arrived in Washington, D.C. and had the opportunity to welcome him back to the United States.
Yeah.
One of the worst earthquakes hit Thailand recently, and the tragedy is still unfolding. 72-hour window is quite crucial, and it is fast approaching, and as soon as that window is closed, it will be really difficult to find somebody alive from that rubble. I count at least 8 to 10 cranes. These are huge cranes that are being used to shift through the rubble. Last morning, they had spotted one person who was reportedly alive.
Majority of the people who is in these ruins could be around 70 to 80 people.
So authorities are saying that they have the mechanism, they have the techniques in place to rescue the people. It all boils down to hope and courage.
How often have you turned away from debates that descend into endless fights? We bring you a show where every question is answered, where every debate finds its resolution, where every story finds its conclusion, where opinions collide but facts prevail, where stories unfold with insights and trust. When the noise ends, the last word begins.
Do you really know the company you invest in? What is the real picture behind presentations and claims? Is the outlook as rosy as the company claims? Know Your Company, powered by NDTV Profit Research, shines a light on the biggest stock market movers.
One of your primary concerns and one of your primary responsibilities is to deal with the threat of terror. And at the moment, we see a great deal of that out of Yemen. We see attacks on shipping taking place, and we see the United States being very much on the offensive. Is that a prelude for something larger, perhaps even a ground offensive going forward?
I mean, you look at President Trump's leadership going back through his first term as president, he has been and remains very committed to combating and defeating the threat of Islamist terrorism that not only affects the United States, the American people, our own safety and security, but it is affecting so many people in different parts of the world. We can see different terrorist groups, the Houthis in Yemen being one of them, that President Trump has.
Good morning, welcome to Breakfast Show. My name is Radhika Ramaswamy. We get you all the latest on the devastating earthquake that shook Southeast Asia. NDTV reports from Bangkok, where Chinese nationals have now been detained. And as India celebrates Eid, we take you through morning prayers and festivities around the country. But first, let's get you the headlines. Bangkok earthquake, 4 Chinese have been detained in the building collapse. They've been detained for trespassing disaster area. And Thailand earthquake, 18 dead in Bangkok. NDTV's Vishal reports from ground zero. MNS chief weighs in on language row. Raj Thackeray says learn from southern states. He also says respect Marathi language. Malayalam film Empuran takes voluntary cuts. RSS calls this film anti-Hindu, and Kerala Chief Minister says Sangh is spreading communal hate. Donald Trump threatens secondary tariffs on Russian oil, puts pressure on Putin to end Ukraine war. And India celebrates Eid. We take you through morning prayers and festive gatherings. And we have some breaking news from the Chatuchak building collapse site in Thailand, where my colleague Vishal Vivek has been getting us latest updates since Friday. Thai police have now detained 4 Chinese nationals who are employees of a joint venture company after they unlawfully entered the restricted disaster zone. So that is the latest we are getting as far as the collapse in Bangkok is concerned. Thai police, they're detaining 4 Chinese nationals for unlawfully entering the site of an under construction building that in fact collapsed after a powerful earthquake hit the area there. In fact, what we are being given to understand is that these 4 Chinese nationals were trying to retrieve documents from the collapsed site. So that's the latest as far as the collapse in Bangkok is concerned. In fact, the police there have confirmed that 4 men who allegedly entered the restricted zone without authorization and removed some files from near the collapse site have now been detained by the police there. In fact, police apprehending these Chinese nationals. One of them who identified himself as the project director overseeing the building's construction. So that is the latest as far as the Bangkok earthquake is concerned. Of course, devastating earthquake shaking Southeast Asia, killing thousands of people, and Bangkok also suffering as a result. Search and rescue operations are underway, but this is the latest update as far as the earthquake is concerned. Thai police are detaining 4 Chinese nationals, employees of a joint venture company, after they unlawfully entered the restricted disaster zone. In fact, these documents are also being taken into custody for examination is what we are being given to understand. And is there any sort of foul play involved? That is being investigated. In fact, Bangkok's governor there had declared this area a disaster zone, had prohibited access to unauthorized personnel under Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Act. In fact, the Chatuchak district office also preparing formal complaint to charge these individuals under Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Act. Police currently questioning all these 4 suspects and readying them for further legal proceedings. So unauthorized entry into restricted disaster area carries a penalty there, and these 4 Chinese nationals had unlawfully entered the restricted disaster zone to take out some files, and now they have in fact been detained by Thai police. All right, so those are the details we're getting. We'll try and speak to Vishal Vivek on the latest. So breaking news from Chatuchak, a building collapse site. 4 Chinese nationals there being detained by Thai police there. In fact, they've been detained for illegally entering the premises of this disaster zone in an attempt to retrieve documents. That's what we are being told. All these documents have also been taken into custody. Remember, this is a massive earthquake that shook Southeast Asia, deadly 7.7 magnitude earthquake striking Myanmar as well as Thailand there. In fact, in the capital city of Thailand, Bangkok, a 33-storied under construction high-rise building came down, killing several people, injuring many others. Emergency declared in Bangkok as well. But now what we are being given to understand is that 4 Chinese nationals have been detained. These are employees of a joint venture company after they unlawfully entered the quake-affected disaster zone. The under-construction 30-story building collapsed after a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake struck Myanmar as well as Thailand. This happened on Friday. NDTV, of course, reporting from ground zero there. From Bangkok, Thai police now arresting 4 Chinese nationals for unlawfully entering the site of under-construction building that collapsed in Bangkok after this powerful earthquake hit this particular area. Police officials, of course, examining what kind of documents they in fact retrieved from the collapsed site. And a rapid investigation being ordered into the incident. It has, of course, led to several questions as to how this skyscraper really came crashing down, which was being constructed by a joint venture that included a Chinese firm as well. So questions over how and why the skyscraper collapsed have begun to do the rounds. So rapid investigations have also been ordered in Thailand. Several high-rise buildings there in Thailand, but it is this particular building that was constructed by a joint venture that included a Chinese firm that came crashing down. Right, Vishal is joining us from ground zero from Bangkok. Vishal, 4 Chinese nationals detained for illegally entering disaster zone to retrieve documents. Of course, this is a disaster zone and anybody unauthorized cannot enter this place. So what are the authorities saying as far as these people are concerned? Is there any suspicion of evidence tampering?
Yeah, there is clearly, because some reports are suggesting, and we have also confirmed on our own, that at least 4 Chinese nationals tried to enter this site, the site of the disaster that happened on Friday, trapping 70 people underneath the huge pile of rubble. So what the Chinese people supposedly did was, they tried to enter through the rear side of this whole entrance. You can see this whole area is cordoned off. This is the busy Chatu Chak market area. I would request my camera person Rohit Vishwakarma to show around this. This road is fully cordoned off. You can see there is no traffic here. There's only official vehicles involved, media involved, and some rescue personnel are there, and a lot of volunteers are there. So how did such a secure area, and the area that has been under heavy security for the last 72 hours now, how did 4 Chinese people manage to get inside this gate? A gate that is being kept closely watched by almost everyone in Thailand. How did they manage to get inside and gain entrance? And they actually managed to retrieve some documents. And they were apprehended by some volunteers. And then they were later handed to the Bangkok police. This is all confirmed. They have been detained. Some reports also suggest that they could be arrested soon. But that is not so far confirmed. But Chinese hand is there. That is confirmed. There's a joint venture between a Thai and an Italian company and also a Chinese state-owned company, as you mentioned earlier. And there will be a big inquiry on this. The Deputy Prime Minister had spoken to NDTV and said that there will be a 7-day inquiry, 7-member inquiry board that will be constituted. That is already working. We spoke to one of the members of that inquiry committee yesterday. That confirmed to us that so far it looks like no one will be pulled out alive. They spoke to us exclusively and they said that the chances of survival in this wreckage is just less than 1%, and that was yesterday. So you can imagine the probability would have dwindled to almost zero right now. And you can see these lorries keep coming out every now and then. They carry out different kinds of equipment. They have some robots attached to them that help in locating the people who are trapped inside. So far, they have been able to, spot some vital signs in about 15 instances, but so far they have not been able to pull out anyone alive. Last night, a senior rescue personnel had told us that one person was spotted at top of the wreckage, just 3 meters from the top of the rubble, but workers could not get to them. And they were trying their best for hours to get to them, but it was not possible. You can see sniffer dogs here. They have been also here. They have spotted a lot of people with vital signs, but those vital signs are growing weaker as we speak. It's been almost 72 hours since the tragedy struck, and this 72-hour window is really crucial because in a situation like this, that 3-day period determines whether someone will be pulled out alive or not. Because across the border in Myanmar, the situation is very dense, very intense, and thousands, about 16 to 1700 people have been killed there, but there have been instances where people have been pulled out alive from the rubble there. But so far in Bangkok, this is the only area of disaster, but no one has been pulled out alive so far. They have been pulling out bodies. Day before yesterday, they pulled out 2 to 3 bodies. Yesterday, they could not pull out anyone. And these cranes have been going at it non-stop for the last 3 days. But it remains to be seen what kind of help is needed to get the people out. Because just a few moments ago, we spotted an Israeli rescue personnel as well. And also US Army Special Forces personnel were here. They were all experts in their own areas, and they've been trying to help the authorities there, the local authorities there. Americans have been using their drones, their high-tech drones. Rescue personnel from Israel were also here. They've been training the local authorities in different mechanisms as to how to rescue the people from inside the wreckage. So international aid is also trickling in. But it all boils down to what will happen, and the wait and watch game is continuing as we speak.
Right, Vishal, you're saying international aid is, of course, trickling in. Search and rescue operations, as you've been showing us, is underway at this point. But could you also tell us the casualty figure as far as this building collapse is concerned? What is the latest casualty figure? You said there won't be survivors, but how many people are trapped at this point? And we believe government has ordered a rapid investigation. So how many people are trapped, and what's the latest casualty figure?
Yeah. So for that, we have a board here that displays the figures, the latest figures. The board is in Thai. We have spoken to the authorities. They have translated it for us. So totally 96 people were officially involved in this construction when the building was collapsing. And out of them, 11 have been reportedly killed. 9 were pulled out alive during the first day. They were injured. There were various degrees of injuries. And officially 76 people are still missing. They are unaccounted for, and there have been some vital signs have we been reporting, but no one has been pulled out alive. This is the official version of it. And as you mentioned, official inquiry has been ordered because a Chinese hand has been reported by many local media, and we have also confirmed that. So the Chinese ambassador to Thailand met with the Deputy Prime Minister yesterday, Deputy Prime Minister of Thailand yesterday, and promised that there will be cooperation from the Chinese side to enable this, to escalate this inquiry as soon as possible. So that is the latest that we're picking up. A Chinese hand involved in this, Chinese people trying to enter and retrieving documents, and also the fact that yesterday we also confirmed that the Chinese state media, which the Chinese state corporation that was involved in the construction of this site, that deleted the details of this site, and they were boasting about their successes because they were first time involved in an international project, and they were promoting it heavily. But as soon as this collapse happened, they deleted